Hello Internet, Dakian here, welcoming you to another Ramble about miniatures on this Monday, the 20th of January 2020. As usual, we're starting off with some finished figures, and we have a bunch of monsters up here in front and center. There's the Naga Queen / Medusa. Sorry about the camera tilt there. Which is finished. She was a messy figure to paint. Difficult to get at all the different textures and pieces of her, but I feel I eventually got it good enough for tabletop use. Then we have all these header caps, which I follow the paint scheme in the current D&D 5e monster manual, which is kind of purple and pale bellies. They have these sacks on their butts that I felt deserved another color, so I painted them slightly differently just to get some variety into it. And yeah, not a lot to say about that. You can see them up close in still pics later. I had some issues. I tried bending the arms into different positions to make them a little bit different in a couple of places. In one instance, I broke off a hand and had to pin it into place. In another case, there was actually a finger that was broken off in the packaging that I had to glue on, and hopefully it's staying on. I'm not sure anymore which ones it is. I can't really tell. But some useful monsters there. The next project that got done was these kids from Hassle-Free Miniatures. Not all of the kids I showed you last week. There were a few that did not get completed. But you'll see those in a minute when I get to the painting table. But I got a bunch done. The knight, the witch, the other knight, the demon. What do we got here? The boy with the wooden sword, the girl sucking a thumb, boy with mace. What else do we have here? We have a girl with arms crossed. This one, as you've seen, the guy with a two-handed sword, and the little vampire girl. Now, because they're so teeny tiny, all the detail isn't legible. It looks a little bit fuzzy if you zoom in, which you're going to see in the still pics. But overall, good enough for tabletop use. And yeah, not a lot to say really. No difficulties apart from the very smallness of them. So let's see what's still cooking on the work table. So on my work table, there's a few Little Women that did not get finished, left over from last week. It's Hassle-Free Miniatures, some child miniatures. They're the slightly older children. They're probably teenagers, lower teens. And as mentioned, I think I mentioned, this is clearly Alice in Wonderland with the Cheshire Cat. I'm gonna paint her like the classic Disney Alice, the animated one from 1951, because of the shape of the Cheshire Cat. It seems to be exactly copied from that movie. I considered whether to do the computer game Alice, the American McGee's Alice, but the cat in that one is really, really gaunt, almost skeletal. It doesn't suit this sculpt. So, Blonde Alice it is. And this one just looks like, you know, the Scottish princess from that Pixar movie that I never saw. But, you know, so red hair, green dress it is. This one, I don't know what it is. It's just a girl in a nightie with a doll. And behind them we see the new stuff. We have the characters that I'm going to paint at the game store night, where I've, you know, pre-painted the bases a little bit. Typical elf ranger here on, and these are micro art bases mostly, not the rock one. Now the bard here is a little tricky with her strange instrument on her back. There's a lot of detail here. Then we have the Shoanti Barbarian, who has a really big club. That's an impressive weapon. Is there anything that needs to be said about these? I don't know. I don't think so. And here's the crab person. I think in hindsight, undercoating the base in this dark gray might be a mistake. I don't know if it's going to be on rock. Maybe he's a crab. He's crawling up on a beach. So I should paint this more sandy. But I can always paint over it. And in the back we have the two Sinspawn and the Attic Whisperers. And nothing special about those. Yeah, I don't think I need to comment these anymore. Let's see what's next up.
And the first of the packages I mentioned last week have shown up, and it was Reaper that beat Hasselfree to the punch. Let me unpack this. Simple enough. Haha. So what do we have here? Well, more Pathfinder miniatures. We have the Skinsaw Cultists. These are needed for an adventure in Rise of the Rune Lords, and you need more than one of them. So we've got 2 here, 3, 4. 4 cultists, and they're identical. I think I'll have to think about how to eventually try to differentiate them. You put them on different bases, maybe change the colors around a little bit. We'll see. The main reason I placed the order was to get these. What are these? More Christmas minis, yes. See, what Reaper did was they introduced... So Reaper introduced, sneakily enough, 2 new Christmas-themed minis right at the end of December, after all my December orders were already placed. And they said that these were only available during December, but fortunately they lied. At least at the EU warehouse, they kept them on sale as long as they had copies in stock. I assume they're not going to restock them until next Christmas, though. So what these are the Dreidel Golem and another Krampus. I've painted... They have one version of Krampus in the Chronoscope line that I painted before. This one seems bigger. That one was more human-sized. This one seems larger than that. But anyway, and as for bonus minis, what they've started doing this year, they don't... the past couple of years, they've mostly used bonus promotional minis as a way to promote their new lines. This past 2019 was various Bones Black minis, and I think the year before that was the Dungeon Dwellers line, or was that even further back? I've forgotten. Anyway, this year, 2020, they've gone the route of just offering you each month one out of a selection of 12 different metal minis, and these are mostly existing stuff. They've stated that one newly produced mini will be put into the rotation each month, but the rest will be stuff that you could already get. I'm not sure which one was the new one in January, but I didn't really care, because what I looked at was which ones did I like, which ones did I have use for. And the one I picked up was one that I've had my eye on for a while, which is Rosia, the Zombie Queen, who is a sort of a necromancer type. you might say. And she's intended for another upcoming campaign project that I have on the back burner. So what I'm going to do, actually, I'm not going to put any of these in the queue right now. Rasia will go into the box of, well, that project. These two will go into the box of Christmas minis to be brought out next December, maybe. And these four will go into the Rise of the Rune Lords box. Because it's not quite time for them yet. So, if I'm not going to start painting any of these, what will I start painting? Well, stick around and find out. So what am I actually going to prep for next week? Well, because I'm going to be a little bit more conservative about the amounts of minis I prep, because, as I've mentioned, I'm getting back to work, and I'm also starting up taking new dance classes for this semester. So I won't be able to paint as much as I did during the holidays. So let's not add too many projects to the queue. But for next week's store painting session, I thought I'd do 3 more characters for the Rise of the Rune Lords project. And 2 of these are actually named minis that are supposed to go with that. We have Tsuto Kaijutsu, who is kind of a mini boss in the first adventure on the road to the main boss. There's Lyria Kenya, and this guy who will stand in for Orin Van Kasteren. This is not the exact. This is the closest I've found to represent the NPC that is actually in the adventure, who doesn't have a specific mini. And these 2 are henchmen, essentially, for the final boss of the first module, so to speak. And for painting at home, I picked out 3 monsters from Bones 4. Again, from the Fan Favorites expansion set that I'm picking stuff out of right now. We have the giant rhinoceros beetle. We have what's known as a tidal lurker by Reaper. This is actually what's in D&D referred to as a chul. And finally, I forget what Reaper calls this, but it's a flail snail in D&D. Now these 2 have integral bases that I think will suffice. This one I will have to put on a base in some way. But that's not going to be a problem. So anyway, expect to see these prepped next week. That was the end of another jam-packed episode of Monday Miniatures Ramble. I thank you for your time. I would also thank you if you clicked like and subscribed and left a comment. But most of all, I would like you to come back a week from now to the same channel and click the same show to see me again. Dakia. But for now, I'm signing off.